Welcome back, everybody, to the 9th episode of the show. We've got a pretty fun episode here today. MLB All-Star Weekend and the MLB Draft is here. The NBA offseason is also in full swing, and we're going to be continuing our NFL Division Series, if you will, covering the AFC South today. As always, I am joined by Nick and Ader. If you would like to greet the viewers.
Nothing much, just glad to be back and can't wait to get going.
All right, so let's not waste any time, and we will hop into our divisional preview of the AFC South. On paper, many people believe that the AFC South might be the worst division in the league, and I can't entirely blame them. This division is not good, to put it nicely. The Jaguars won the division last year, and they are the comfortable favorite to win it again after getting number one picks in back-to-back years, but we finally saw the growth out of Trevor Lawrence, who should be the best quarterback in this division by a wide margin. Calvin Ridley is here. He will be able to play, joining a pretty solid skill group as is with Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Engram. They drafted a couple of rookies as well. The offensive line is a little bit iffy. They did lose Jawan Taylor in free agency. He signed with the Chiefs. They did draft Anton Harrison to replace him, but they also have Cam Robinson, who's going to be suspended to start the year. So the offensive line does seem like there's some questions, but I do like the quarterback and skill position players. Defensively, there are some weaknesses, but there are some young guys who you can expect growth from. I think it's kind of over for K'Lavon Chaisson. It looks like he's kind of a bust, but hope is still out for other guys like Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, guys who have struggled so far in their careers. I would expect both of those players to take leaps up this year. Tyson Campbell was great last year. Josh Allen is really good. And they're going to need some of these other guys to continue to step up. We'll see if someone like Andre Sisco can take a leap. Foye Oluokun, they gave him a lot of money. We'll see what he can do. So there are some holes on this defense, but overall it's a young and talented group. I feel like if the Jaguars were in any other division, they wouldn't be talked about as a shoo-in for the playoffs. And I do have my reservations about this roster. But since they're in the AFC South and since they've got a young, progressing quarterback, I can understand why it would be hard to bet against them.
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to agree with everything that you just said. The offense looks great. Being able to add a guy like Calvin Ridley. The second receiver spot last year was a bit of a question mark. Zay Jones was solid, but he's not a guy you want to be that number two. But getting a guy who has proven to be a caliber number one in the past to be your number two, that is going to be really good for a guy like Trevor Lawrence to take that next step up to possibly be in that top five, that elite tier of QBs with guys like Herbert, Burrow, Allen, Hurts, all those guys. And Travis Etienne, maybe he can take the next step up to being that top echelon of running backs. Like you said, the O-line has a bit of question marks. Anton Harrison's probably got to start at left tackle to begin the year with Cam Robinson being suspended. Walker Little is their projected starter at right tackle. The interior looks good, but those tackle spots are going to be a bit of a question mark to start the year. We'll see how they all do. And then, like you said, the defense, it's a really young roster. I am curious to see how the secondary is going to perform. Tyson Campbell is a great young corner that people sleep on a lot. But the rest of that secondary, I'm not so sure on. They gave Rayshawn Jenkins a lot of money, I believe 2 years ago. So we'll see if he can perform to how much he's getting paid. But the rest of that secondary has a lot of question marks. We'll see if Trevor Walker, the former first overall pick, can perform to what the Jaguars thought he could do. See if Devin Lloyd, who in his rookie year started out really good, but so slowly fell back down to earth. So we'll see if he can keep what he was doing last year to see if he can take the next step up. See if Oluokun can do his veteran role, lead guys like Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma, and see if Josh Allen can, while he's really good, feels like he hasn't taken that step to be one of those elite pass rushers, but I want to see him take that next step up, get 14, 15 sacks. I want to see him perform like those other elite edge rushers that everyone knows that this guy can be.
Next up, we'll look at the Tennessee Titans. They have regularly been the best team of this division over the last few years. I feel like a lot of people are kind of writing them off, but I feel like this team could be better than people think. Mike Vrabel is consistently one of the better coaches in the league. He knows how to get the most out of his players, even when the team is consistently injured. And I think overall this roster is quite solid. Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, he's not bad. I mean, he's not great, and the Titans have tried drafting a replacement 2 years in a row. Last year they took a shot on Malik Willis. Doesn't seem like it's going to work out. This year they used a higher investment on Will Levis, who they hope can be the franchise quarterback. But I would expect Ryan Tannehill is the guy for most of this season. And if the Titans are in playoff contention, which I think they can be, I would assume Tannehill keeps the job the entire year. Now, the skill group is not great. The receiving core is abysmal. You're hoping for a boost from Treylon Burks, who showed some good things last year, but wasn't as good as most of the other rookie receivers. But this team is about the ground game. Derrick Henry still really has not lost a step. You gotta think it's gonna happen eventually with somebody who's taken so much wear and tear on his body. But Derrick Henry really has not gotten that much worse. Got to see the offensive line improved. We'll see if Peter Skoronski, the tackle/guard, probably will end up playing guard this year from Northwestern, will be the high-impact guy that we think that he can be. They invested a pretty big contract into Andre Dillard. I'm curious to see how he does. So it's really up to, I think, how the passing game can complement the ground game, because these guys know how to run the ball. They have one of the best running backs in the league, but will Ryan Tannehill continue to be solid, and will these receivers show signs of life? Another name to look out for, Chigo Okonkwo. He had a pretty solid season last year at tight end. And then defensively, this is a really good unit. Jeffrey Simmons got paid the big bucks. You keep him along the middle of the defensive line. He is a game wrecker. Harold Landry missed all of last year with an injury. He is back. They lost David Long, but they replaced him with Azeez Al-Shaair, who's a pretty solid linebacker himself. And then the secondary is good as well. Kevin Byard's a very talented player, one of the better safeties in the league. I think Christian Fulton's a pretty underrated corner. Will we see a leap from Roger McCreary in year 2? Will we see a leap from Caleb Farley in year 3? Obviously, the medical has really hurt him, which was the pre-draft concern. I think this defense is definitely one of the better units in the league. And even though everybody's kind of penciling this in as the Jaguars' division, I can't say I'd be all that surprised if the Titans exceed expectations and maybe potentially win this division.
Yeah, I've definitely seen people think the Titans are going to be a bottom 3 team and be in contention for a guy like Caleb Williams next year, when, truthfully, I don't think it's going to be the case. I could see them going over 500 and having a shot at maybe the 7th seed, or even if the Jaguars underperform, maybe even win this division. They were right in the neck of it last year, going, 7-10, 8-9, something like that, and they had the most injured roster in football last year. They had no QB. They had Josh Dobbs as starting QB. Their number one receiver right now is Treylon Burks. He wasn't healthy last year. Chigo Okonkwo was solid last year. Their O-line was abysmal. They had no Harold Landry. Caleb Farley wasn't there. The entire roster was just brutally battered, and they just couldn't do anything at the end of the year. But Mike Vrabel has dealt with an injured roster the past 2 years. Already, Harold Landry isn't fully healthy, but he should be healthy by the start of the year. Their right tackle, Nicholas Petit-Frere, is suspended at the start of the year. A guard, Donor Duns, is already questionable. So they're already starting to get these injuries coming in. But Vrabel has been one of the better coaches this past couple years, being able to take injured rosters and perform them as the best that they can. Ryan Tannehill, as long as he stays healthy, should be probably a top 16 QB. He was really solid, even with these not good receiving core. But the whole offense is Derrick Henry. He's going to get 300-plus carries as long as he's not hurt. And he's going to run for 1,600 yards and get like 15 touchdowns. It's Derrick Henry. Eventually, he's going to end up losing a step, but I don't think it's going to be this year unless something crazy happens. But the whole offense is Derrick Henry. And with a better O-line, Skoronski looks like a really good guard. And Andre Dillard, I do really like. I think he is a good tackle. It's just Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson are on the Eagles, so he just never got a shot in Philly. And then at the defense, you get Harold Landry back. He will be healthy by the start of the year. Before his injury year last year, he had like 15, 16 sacks. He was phenomenal. If he can get back to even like half of that, he'll be a great addition for them. Pierre Tart's going to be the nose tackle. He looks good. Nico Autry is solid. Jeffrey Simmons is a game wrecker. You get a guy like Azeez Al-Shaair to replace David Long, who's real similar. You get Monty Rice, who I really like. And then the corners, I do want to see these young corners perform. Roger McCreary, Christian Fulton, they signed Sean Murphy-Bunting. See if Caleb Farley can do anything if he's not hurt for once in his life. If 2 of those guys can perform, then this defense should be one of the better units, not just rushing, but passing. Last year, they were one of the better run stuffers, but passing defense was their weakness. They could not stop good QBs who knew how to throw the ball. You looked at the Eagles game. We're a run-heavy first team. We didn't run the damn ball. We threw 4 touchdowns in the air because their secondary sucked. A.J. Brown had a good-ass game. But if you get a guy like Fulton or McCurry or Bunting to step up, win some games for this team will win games and could, like I said, have a shot at winning this division depending on how well the Jaguars do.
I think the Indianapolis Colts are a team who could finish in a wide range of possibilities. I think this team, there's a world where they win 9 or 10 games, shock the world, and win the division. I think there's a world where this team is awful, and much of it hinges on the quarterback position. I think Anthony Richardson will start sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be surprised if it's right away. If not, I think it'll be by the end of the first month of the year. They do have Gardner Minshew as a placeholder, but I think Anthony Richardson will play, and I don't think he's going to be completely awful. He has a rushing ability to where he'll be able to make plays on the ground, even if his arm and accuracy is inconsistent. And he's got a solid group of weapons. Jonathan Taylor did not have his best year last year, but he's healthy again, and there's no reason to think he can't get back to the JT that we saw at the end of this rookie year and his second season. They've got a pretty good group of receivers. Michael Pittman's a talented player. He is on the final year of his contract, but he is good. Alec Pierce should be able to take a leap. They signed Isaiah McKenzie in free agency. He's a very solid slot guy. He's been reliable throughout his career. And the offensive line is pretty solid. I mean, Quentin Nelson leading the way at guard. Didn't have that great of the year last year, but we know what he's capable of. Braden Smith is a good player. We'll see if some of these younger guys like Bernard Raymond can take a leap. Maybe we see somebody like Jelani Woods at tight end have a breakout year. And this is with Shane Steichen running the offense now. We saw what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. The defense, though, I feel like I have more questions about, and it's not a particularly great unit. The interior of a defensive line is very good. DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, that's a nice duo. Shaq Leonard, who pretty much did not play last year, he is back healthy. That's a big deal. We know how much of an impact he makes. The secondary, though, is a major question. One of their few bright spots defensively last year was Isaiah Rodgers, the young corner. He is out for the year with a gambling suspension. And while they have Kenny Moore, the veteran, he did take a step down last year, and much of those other cornerback snaps will likely be taken by rookies like Julius Brent or Darius Rush. The safeties are a little bit in question as well. I do want to see if Julian Blackmon can get to form. He was great as a rookie and hasn't really gotten all that much better during his time with the Colts, largely because of injury. So I think, again, there's a wide range of ways this team could finish. They could be really bad, but I also could see Anthony Richardson being really good, having an Offensive Rookie of the Year type season, and in a weak division, squeaking into the playoffs.
Yeah, like the Titans, this team was injured a lot last year, and I think it's going to all hinge down on what Anthony Richardson can do. Right now, it's projected that Mitchell is going to start. I wouldn't be shocked if Richardson starts day one. I don't think they should do that because of how raw of a prospect he is. Give him a little bit, give him to the groove of things. Maybe week 4, week 5, we'll see Richardson come out. If he plays well, we'll see how well he can do. But I do think guys like Jonathan Taylor, after getting hurt almost all year, is going to be back, should be back to what he was 2 years ago. And I think the big question mark for this offense is going to be the O-line with how almost abysmal they were after what looked to be a fixed O-line with Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith. It was really bad last year. But I do think with them being fully healthy now with Bernard Raymond, Will Fries is now the new right guard, I do think they will be a lot better this year. Taylor should have a lot easier of a time. And for a guy with a great rushing ability like Anthony Richardson, even if they do struggle, you have a guy who can get out of the pocket, unlike who they had last year with Ryan. The receiving core I like a lot. Michael Pittman, we'll see if they re-sign him, but if you are in a pickle, just check the ball to him. He's tall. He can probably grab something. Now, here's another go up and get it kind of guy. And a guy I'm surprised you didn't mention, Josh Downs right now, I believe is a projected third starter. And I think he would be a great slot receiver, a really reliable guy. Just to get those short throws, kind of help Richardson get into the group of things in his first few weeks as a starter. And looking at the defense, like you said, it is a question mark. The front seven, I am not worried about. EJ Speed is a guy who I really like at linebacker to pair with Shaq Leonard. And then that front four, Kwity Paye, we'll see if he can take a step up after being a former first-round pick. But you have DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart. Those are some great players up front. That secondary, though, is the big question. Kenny Moore previously used to be one of the best slot corners. He's still good, but he's slowly taking a step down as he's getting older. And then the second corner right now for them is Julius Brents and then Darius Rush. Those are the rookies. We'll see if they can actually perform to see how they are. They are really athletic. They're really good players. But we'll see if they can perform starting day one. The safeties, Julian Blackman, we'll see if he can take a step up after he didn't really take any steps last year. He kind of stayed where he was. Right now, I do want to see if Nick Cross can get some playing time, whether at corner or at safety. It's a guy who I really like. We'll see what he can do. It's going to be a question of if this secondary can perform, and as well, Anthony Richardson. I don't think they're going to go too far, but 2 years from now, if Anthony Richardson is who people think he can be, I wouldn't be shocked if this team is fighting with the Jags every year for playoff contention.
And then the last team in this division is the Houston Texans. The Texans have obviously been a dumpster fire over the last few years. But I feel like for the first time in a while, there is light at the end of the tunnel. They really improved this roster in free agency. They're adding 2 top 3 picks to the fold and a legitimate coach in D'Amico Ryans. And I think they have the talent to win some games this year and maybe surprise people. The only reason why I don't feel comfortable about picking them to win the division is the entirety of the roster as a whole still lacks, but this team is much improved over the last couple of seasons, and obviously that starts with the new faces of the offense and the defense, with C.J. Stroud at quarterback and Will Anderson going after the opposing QBs. And even if I disagree with giving up that much to go up and get Will Anderson, he might be the best football player in the draft. He's a high-character kid, and he's the type of player that the Houston Texans need. They're also getting a guy in C.J. Stroud who's going to be ready to go. I'm even more confident in him than Richardson that he will start right away, and if he doesn't, I would be absolutely shocked. I think Stroud is good enough, and he's got a solid group of weapons. Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary is an underrated running back duo. I think those guys complement each other well. The receiving core is not bad. They add Robert Woods in free agency. He's a little bit older, but I think there's still a little bit left in the tank. John Mechie is healthy. He should be a guy who contributes. They drafted Tank Dell in the 3rd round. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then I think Nico Collins, the one mainstay at receiver, could be poised for a breakout year. I think he's a good player. Dalton Schultz at tight end is quite solid. And then the offensive line, I think this is one of those underrated units in the entire league. Laramie Tunsil is one of the best tackles in football. He still does not get enough credit. Shaq Mason's a pretty good player. Titus Howard's a pretty good player. Kenyon Green was the lowest graded guard according to PFF last year, but he was a top 15 pick for a reason. There's no reason to think he can't improve. And then their penciled-in center is second-rounder Juice Scruggs. So if the young guys like Green and Scruggs can play well, there's no reason to think this won't be one of the best offensive lines in football. Defensively, they've got a solid pass rush headlined by Will Anderson and other veterans. I like the linebacking core. Denzel Perryman's a good player who doesn't really get talked about enough. And then the secondary, there are some very intriguing young players. Derek Stingley should be able to take a leap up in year 2. I like how he'll be able to fit with D'Amico Ryans. And then they've got some intriguing playmakers in the back end with Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward, both of whom are very versatile players. So I think the defense, while there are some good young players, it lacks talent overall. But having D'Amico Ryans as your head coach will certainly be helpful. And then I think this offense could be one of the better units in the league. If everything clicks, which is a lot easier said than done, but if it does, the ceiling of this offense is pretty high for year 1 of the C.J. Stroud era. So again, I see a world where the Texans end up outperforming. They just need pretty much all of these young guys to take the step up that we think they can.
Yeah, with this roster, on paper, you want to question it a little bit, but when you kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it, they're a lot better than they have in the past couple of years. You get your franchise QB C.J. Stroud, who I am a lot higher on than a lot of other people. I think he was 1A, 1B right there with Bryce Young. So I think he's going to be phenomenal, and I think with this roster, he can perform really well. If you have the run game, you can rely on Dameon Pierce, Devin Singletary. Dameon Pierce was a really good back last year, reminding people a lot of guys like Jonathan Taylor. So if he can perform like half of what Jonathan Taylor did 2 years ago, this phenomenal run game, and you get a guy like Devin Singletary for a change of pace, and if you want to throw checkdowns, the receiving core is a little lackluster, but you got the veteran presence in Robert Woods, and Stroud did really want Tank Dell to get drafted by the Texans, and he got his guy. He's not presented as a starter yet, but I'm sure at some point he will get snaps and he will get on there. John Mechie coming back from cancer. He is back and ready to play. He is a guy who I really like going to the deep ball. And Dalton Schultz is a reliable tight end for CJ Stroud to throw to. And just like you said, this O-line looks really good. Larry Tunsil's a top-tier guard. Tackle. Shaq Mason is a good guard. Tyus Howard is one of the younger, underappreciated tackles. And we'll see if Kenyon Green and Juice Scruggs can perform to see if they can take the next tier up. And this defense, while on paper does not look good, I actually really like it. I'm not going to say it's going to be a top 10 defense, but I do really like it. I think Will Anderson paired with D'Amico Ryans is going to be a disgusting duo. He is one of the guys that helped Nick Bosa become who he is today. If he can get Will Anderson to get up there and even be half of what Nick Bosa is right now, phenomenal. Malik Collins, I do like as a young defense tackle, pairing with Sheldon Rankins. Jerry Hughes, he's old as dirt, but he is still performing. He is still good. And behind him, you have Jonathan Grenard, who was solid as a rookie a few years ago. And then the linebackers, you have Christian Harris, Christian Kirksey, Denzel Perryman. I like all of those guys. Christian Harris is really athletic. Denzel Perryman and Kirksey have the veteran presence, but are still solid. And this secondary, I do really like Shaquille Griffin coming over from the Jaguars. Derek Stingley was kind of overvalued when you look at a guy like Sauce Gardner, but I do think Derek Stingley was really good last year, and I think pairing with a guy like D'Amico Ryans and having other corners around him, he will be phenomenal. Steven Nelson is a good pickup from the Steelers, and Desmond King is one of the better slot corners that people kind of forget about. He was really good with the Chargers a few years ago, signed with the Texans, and he stayed here the past couple years, and I am really excited to see what he can do pairing with other corners. Stingley, Nelson, and Shaq Griffin. The safeties, Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petrie. Jalen Petrie is one of the better young safeties. I think he had 4 or 5 interceptions last year. He was phenomenal. Jimmy Ward pairing with D'Amico Ryans again. He should perform exactly how he was in San Fran. I think this team can win maybe even 7-8, maybe even go above 500. I don't think they're ready for playoffs just yet, but I'm sure Stroud can be able to take that step and pair nicely with these young receivers, Nico Collins, John Mechie, Tank Dell, even Xavier Hutchinson from Clemson. But I do think this is a much better roster than we have seen the past few years. I don't think we're going to see a Texans first overall pick. I don't think it's going to be anyone from the AFC South. We'll see who it is at some point. But I do think this roster is going to be a lot better than it has been the past couple of years.
So if I were to pick an order for these teams, I don't want to go chalk, but for now, if I were to rank them, I feel like I would say Jaguars, Titans, Colts, Texans. But honestly, this is one of the few divisions where I could almost see any order happening. Maybe not Jacksonville at the exact bottom, but I think this is one of the more fascinating divisions because I feel like any of these young teams can really break out and surprise.
Yeah, you can pretty much go almost any order here, but I'm going to be different for once, and I'm going to say Jags, Titans. I'm going to go Texans and then Colts. I think Stroud's going to perform really well and possibly even win that Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think Richardson's going to be bad. I do think he'll struggle a bit being a lot more raw with not as good accuracy. But I do think the Colts will be really good soon. But I do think the Texans are going to be a lot really, really surprising.
Okay, so with that, we will shift our attention to the MLB All-Star break, and we will talk about some of our All-Star snubs along with our NL picks. MLB All-Star break is pretty much here. It'll be kicking off next week. We have not done our formal NL All-Star predictions, so we will do that first before going through the All-Star rosters, and I will start with my NL position players. Behind the dish, Sean Murphy will start, and Will Smith will be my reserve. I think they have been comfortably the 2 best catchers in the National League. At first base, Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson. Again, they've both been very good, pretty chalky so far with the real All-Stars. At second base, I think this is where the first real debate will come in. So I have Luis Arraez starting, but as my backup, instead of Ozzie Albies, I have Ketel Marte. I don't think you can really go wrong either way with Albies or Marte, but Marte has a higher WAR. A lot of his counting stats are higher. The home runs are lower, but I think both of them have been pretty equal. But we're going to go with Marte. At third base, Ryan McMahon for the Rockies. I need a representative for every team, so McMahon will be my Rockies guy. And then Nolan Arenado with the Cardinals. He started the season off really poorly, but he's played a lot better. At shortstop, I've got Orlando Arcia and Francisco Lindor. I feel bad about leaving Geraldo Perdomo with the Diamondbacks off the list, but I feel like those two guys have been a little bit better. In the outfield, mostly chalk with my first few guys, Ronald Acuna, Mookie Betts, Fernando Tatis, who got absolutely snubbed, Juan Soto, Corbin Carroll. Those are all pretty obvious ones. And then my sort of out-of-the-blue one is Christian Yelich in Milwaukee. He's been playing very well as of recent. Again, I needed a representative for every team, and he's been their best position player this year. As for the DH, we've got Jorge Soler with the Marlins, and then for my second spot, I kind of cheated a little bit, even though he's not really a DH. We need a representative for every team, so this is where Nick Castellanos with the Phillies will end up.
Yeah, mine's a lot of chalk here. Same thing for the catchers. Sean Murphy starting with Will Smith backing him up. First base, I have a little different. I have Freddie Freeman starting, but I have Pete Alonso backing him up. I do want to shout out Matt Olson and Paul Goldschmidt, of course, but I need a Met somewhere. For second base, Luis Arias, of course, but behind him, I'm going to have Nolan Gorman, one of the bright spots on a really bad Cardinals roster here. But Nolan Gorman, after struggling a bit last year, has been really good this year. Nolan Arenado is going to be starting at third base, another small bright spot on the Cardinals. And behind him is J.D. Davis because the Giants are not good. At shortstop, we have Orlando Arcia, and behind him, I have Matt McClain. He has not played all that much for the Reds this year, but he has been real good when he has played. In the outfield, pretty much chalk for the starters. You got Acuna, Corbin Carroll, Juan Soto. Behind him for left field, I have Randall Grichuk from the Rockies, who has surprisingly been really solid for them and could be a good trade deadline piece for the Rockies. Mookie Betts backing up center, and then I have Nick Castellanos in right field where he should be. And then at DH, I do have Christopher Morel starting, and I have Bryce Harper behind him because I like my Bryce Harper.
As for the pitching, there were some tough omissions here. We've got Clayton Kershaw with the Dodgers, Marcus Stroman with the Cubs. I could have gone with Stroman or Justin Steele. Both of them have been really good, but I decided to go with Stroman. And then with the Braves as well, I picked Bryce Elder, but you can't really go wrong with Spencer Strider either, but some of Elder's numbers have just been better. I need a representative for the Nationals, so I'm going with Josiah Gray. He's been really good this year. I need a representative for the Giants. There were a few guys I thought about for San Francisco. J.D. Davis, as you mentioned. I also thought about my guy Camilo Duvall, but I'm going to go with Logan Webb. He's having a pretty solid season for them. The Giants are a weird team because they don't have many clear all-stars, but they're good. I don't know how it works. And then for the relievers, we're supposed to only have one, but again, I cheated a little bit because I need a representative for every team. So I have both David Bednar with the Pirates and Alexis Diaz with the Cincinnati Reds. And there were a few other relievers I thought about. Duvall, as I mentioned. Devin Williams is having a good season in Milwaukee. I thought about making him my Brewers representative, but I went with Yelich instead. So those are my pitchers.
Yeah, for the starting pitchers, it feels weird when you look at the top guys, when you look at all the big stats. My first guy, I do have Marcus Stroman. Him and Justin Steele have been probably some of the best starting pitchers in the National League. And it's really weird looking at not just the National League, but the American League, seeing all these really good pitchers. And they're names you don't think you would expect. And then for the Pirates, I do have Mitch Keller. He's been really good. He's cooled off a little bit since the start of the year, but he's been still good. Nationals need somebody, so it's going to be Josiah Gray. My Brewers representative is going to be Corbin Burns. It's Corbin Burns. He's still good. Maybe he gets traded, not to another National League team, but we'll see. And then Bryce Elder I have as the last pitcher. He and Strider have both been really good, but just like you said, Elder's just stat-wise been a little better, I mean. And then relief pitcher, I already had every team used, so I just wanted to go with who I thought was one of the better relievers, and that's Jose Alvarado from the Phillies. He was hurt a little bit to start the year, but he has been phenomenal. He is easily one of the top relievers in baseball, and there's not much else to say.
So we've picked our All-Stars for the American League in the previous episode and now the National League today. The MLB has released the All-Star starters and reserves, however, so we're going to take a look at the roster, talk about what we agree and disagree with. So we will start in the American League, and I don't have many major complaints here. When we did our AL All-Stars, I did not list Jonah Heim as one of the All-Stars. I went with Salvador Perez and Adley Rutschman, but I don't really have a major problem with it. Something I disagree with, though, at the time when I picked my AL All-Stars, I agreed with Josh Young starting, but now I feel like it should be Jose Ramirez. He's been great with Cleveland over the last month or so. In terms of snubs, Wander Franco is on the All-Star roster now, but he was not on the initial roster. They instead had Whit Merrifield over him, which is just like, what the hell? I mean, I get that the Blue Jays have a lot of voters, having a big fan base from Canada, but like, what are we doing here? Why is Whit Merrifield an All-Star? I can't really get behind that one. Other than that, I don't really have anything I really disagree with for the most part. I would have kind of liked to see Ryan Noda made it with the A's, but unfortunately he doesn't get it. As for the pitching, nothing really to point out in terms of starters. I don't really agree with Michael Lorenzen being the Tigers representative, though. I feel like Detroit had better options in the bullpen, or you even could have gone with Eduardo Rodriguez, even though he hasn't really pitched in the last month. And then speaking of the bullpen, I feel like Johan Duran with Minnesota got kind of snubbed a little bit. Emmanuel Clase hasn't really been as good as he normally is, so maybe you could have taken his spot out. But regardless, I feel like Duran should have been able to get one of those spots. They went with Sonny Gray for the Twins, which is very well deserved. I feel like you can make an argument for Joe Ryan as well.
Yeah, I think Sonny Gray over Joe Ryan is a little questionable, but Sonny Gray's been having a big resurgence this year, so I'm not going to be mad at it. The biggest thing you already mentioned was J. Ram not being the starter, and then Wander Franco not being there originally. He's there now, but I think he's probably going to be the starter for a shortstop because he is doing some things that we haven't seen in decades, probably. He's been phenomenal. The one thing I do want to mention is I don't think Randy Rosarena should be a starter in the outfield. I think it should have been Jordan or Luis Robert. I think if Shohei Ohtani wasn't a player, Luis Robert would be top 2 for MVP right now. He is performing phenomenally, and I know he's on the White Sox and they're not really good, but it's kind of shocking how no one is talking about what Luis Robert is doing right now because he has been phenomenal since the end of April. He had that one play where he didn't run out on a ground out, and people thought he sucked when he's been a top 5 player. But besides that, everything else I don't really have an issue with.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out Luis Robert. I should have mentioned him too. He has been phenomenal this year, probably should have started. As for the National League, in terms of their starters, I don't have many major complaints. I think Jorge Soler has been a little bit better than JD Martinez in terms of the DH spot, but other than that, no real complaints. As for the reserves, I do feel like there are some snubs. I feel like there could have been an argument for Ketel Marte or Geraldo Perdomo, as I kind of talked about earlier, but I get there's other players there. I can't get behind Lourdes Gurriel making it over Fernando Tatis, though. Gurriel has had a really good season with the Diamondbacks, don't get me wrong, but Fernando Tatis has been so good. Even coming back from the suspension, I get there's like a negative cloud hovering above him, but he deserves to be an all-star. As for the pitchers, I don't really have a major issue. I feel like they got a lot of these right for the most part. So, no arguments in terms of the pitchers for me.
Yeah, at least at a first glance, the pitchers look fine. No Jose Alvarado, but I get why. He hasn't played all that much. I was just a little biased. They did get Josiah Gray as the only Washington rep, which makes sense. The only big thing I want to mention is that no Paul Goldschmidt. They have Pete Alonso over Goldie. I know I put Alonso over Goldschmidt, but that's because I didn't have another Met representative, and I think Alonso might only be the Met representative, and he is, which makes sense. The Mets kind of suck. But I would have liked to see Paul Goldschmidt get in there, because even though the Cardinals have been really bad this year, he's been really good. Him, Arenado, and Nolan Gorman have been like the only good players on that roster. And I would have liked to see all three of them get love, but at least one of them did with Arenado. But everything else, at least to me, looks fine. No Bryce Harper, but I get it. But at least Castellanos got in, so I'm happy about that.
Now we're going to briefly preview the MLB draft, which will be kicking off this Sunday. During the start of the pandemic, they moved the draft to the All-Star break, and it seems like they're going to keep it there going forward. And this draft appears to be, at least at the top, one of the best in a very, very long time. And we could have some drama at the very top of the draft, which for months, most people wouldn't have really expected. And that's with the Pittsburgh Pirates at number 1 overall. And this year, there's at least 3 guys who would go number 1 most years. with Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens, and then Wyatt Langford. A lot of people have penciled in Dylan Cruz as this pick. He has been probably the best offensive player in the country, helping lead LSU to the College World Series. And he seems like the easy pick for the Pirates, but there are some people who seem to believe that the Pirates may go below slot value. Dylan Cruz is asking for a large amount of bonus money, and maybe the Pirates go for a cheaper option to get themselves more financial flexibility later. The name in specific I've seen rumored with them is high school outfielder Max Clark. Personally, I think that'd be a mistake. I think you go with the best player on the board, somebody who can be the face of your organization going forward. The MLB draft is such a crapshoot, so to get arguably the best hitting prospect in years, I feel like that should be a no-brainer for the Pirates. The Nationals are likely looking at Paul Skeens. Realistically, maybe if Dylan Cruz falls to 2, that's the route they go with. Many people think that Paul Skeens is the best pitching prospect since another National, Steven Strasburg, so it would be fitting that Skeens essentially replaces Steven Strasburg. It seems like LSU may have overused him at times, and we've seen more and more pitching injuries because these guys are throwing harder than ever. So I guess the medical could be a concern, but there isn't really many reasons to believe yet of a possible injury. I'd be surprised if the Nationals go below slot value, though. I do think they're going to be smart about this and pick one of these true blue chip players, similarly to what they did last year with Elijah Green slipping to their pick. Detroit at 3 is another interesting one. You would think they would go with who's ever left of Cruz, Skeens, and Langford. Realistically, Wyatt Langford, who pretty much was just as good as Dylan Cruz was with Florida. But the Tigers could go below slot value as well. A name I've seen linked with them is Kyle Teal, the catcher out of, I believe, Virginia. Maybe the Tigers go with a high school bat like a Max Clark or a Walker Jenkins. But with where Detroit's offense is right now, which is completely abysmal, I feel like assuming Cruz or Langford, one of those guys is there at 3, that has to be the pick. Get somebody to build the offense around, because I'm not really sure if there's anybody in the farm system you can do that with. Maybe Riley Green, he's been really good. Colt Keith is skyrocketing up the minors, but other than that, I mean, Spencer Torkelson's been disappointing, and there's nobody else in the farm system who I feel like you can really build an offense around. So ideally, you get one of those 2 bats, unless they end up being the top 2 picks, then maybe you look at Paul Skeens with the 3rd pick. So I think sort of how that top 3 goes will dictate the rest of the draft. Will we see the 3 best prospects go with the top 3 picks? Who knows? These are 3 teams who have gone with cheaper slot value players in the past. 2021 in specific, the Pirates with Henry Davis, the Tigers with Jackson Jobe. So it's possible that they do it again.
Yeah, for those top 3 teams, I definitely understand why they try and go with those not as expensive players, because they're in not as big markets, being Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Washington. They're not as that big of markets, but I do think when you have these 3 blue chip guys with Skeens, Cruz, and Langford, I think you just have to go with them. Paul Skeens looks like a mix between Hunter Green and Spencer Strider. He's striking out at the rate that Spencer Strider is, which is ridiculous. And he throws about as hard as Hunter Green does. He throws good 102 on the average, which those 2 as a combination is ridiculous. Him and Dylan Cruz have been took LSU all the way, and they both of them combined have been ridiculous. Dylan Cruz has easily been the best hitter in college baseball. Wyatt Langford has not been that far behind him. If I'm the GM for the Pirates, I would probably go with Cruz, just because the pitching is fairly solid right now, and you have a lot of prospects that you can go out and try and go get another starter. There's a lot of guys on the market right now. If you want, I know they're not that good right now, so you could be sellers, but you have a good farm system right now. You have a good pitching farm system specifically, so getting another guy in the outfield that you can pair with Brian Reynolds in a few years, that sounds really good to me. For the Nationals, the pitching's awful. Everything's awful. It's the Nationals. I think just getting the best player available, who, if Dylan Cruz goes number 1, the answer is Paul Skeens. I think you just have to go with him if he's there number 2. That just seems like the answer to me. He is the next Strasburg. He is probably the best pitching prospect since Strasburg. Like I said, he throws as hard as Hunter Green does, who has the top 2 or 3 fastest thrown balls in the history of the Major League Baseball. And he strikes out at the same rate that Spencer Strider does, who has 155 strikeouts in less than 100 innings. And Paul Skeens has over 200 strikeouts in about 120 innings, which is ridiculous. And then with Detroit, I think you just have to go Langford. I could see them going with one of the high school guys, Walker Jenkins and Max Clark. But I do think you just got to go Langford, just get someone in the outfield. Because besides Riley Green, I don't know if a lot of the outfielders are going to be all that good. Austin Meadows, after trading for him, has not been all that good. And I don't know what the Tigers farm system is like. That's all Octi. But besides Riley Green, and that's really about it. I don't really know if there's any other good prospects for you. And I think if you get a all blue chip guy like Wyatt Langford, you got to go for it. A lot of this top players on this board, this top 10, it's a lot of outfielders. There's 4 outfielders, 4 pitchers who all look really good. And then you got 1 shortstop, Jacob Wilson. You got 1 catcher, Kylie Teal. Jacob Wilson's from Grand Canyon, and you got Kylie Teal from Virginia. I do think those are going to be good players, but I don't think either of them are going to go into the top 3. I think that top 3 should and probably will be some order of Skeens, Cruz, and Langford, but we will see because those are some cheap owners, and we'll see what they want to do.
So with that, we'll take a look at the NBA offseason. We'll quickly recap the draft. We'll go over free agency and some possible destinations for some of the star players who are still available. The NBA draft has now wrapped up, and we're going to quickly recap it real quick. Some interesting storylines. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama, number 1, as expected. The biggest talking point other than Wemby going into the draft is what the Hornets are going to do at 2. I've been on the belief that they should pick Scoot Henderson. He's the best player on the board, and I feel like it would be a mistake not to. And I feel like they made a mistake with picking Brandon Miller with that selection. Miller's played a couple of Summer League games. It's been up and down. We're not going to make any reactions to Summer League. It's 2023. We know better. But I feel like that was a mistake, and I feel like eventually they will regret it. Some picks that I disagree with early on, along with Brandon Miller. I am a little bit bullish on the Thompson twins. Amen Thompson at 4 and Asar Thompson at 5. I'm lower on both of them. I think they've got a ways to go in terms of their development. I'm a little bit concerned about the competition level with Overtime Elite. We have not seen players come from Overtime Elite into the NBA yet. So I wouldn't want to be the team who takes a shot on it. But if those guys do develop, I really like their overall skill sets, so I see why those teams like them. As for some other fun fits, I really like Anthony Black in Orlando, even if it was a little bit early. The fit is so good. He fits exactly what they look for in terms of positional versatility on both ends of the floor. He can run the offense as the point, and he can guard the 1 to the 3. Jarris Walker, the Pacers, I thought was a total steal. I think he's one of the 5 best players in the class. And the fact that the Pacers got to move down a spot, add a couple of 2s, and still get Jarris Walker is really impressive. Cam Whitmore was another very interesting storyline. He slipped all the way to 20. Pretty easy decision for the Rockets, who I know were considering him at 4. They wanted to trade up for him in like the range of pick 10. He ends up slipping at them at 20. They don't have to move at all. And they still end up picking him. I thought that was a really good pick by them. And then an interesting position group that I'm curious to see is some of these highly ranked high school guards who had slightly disappointing freshman seasons, how they end up turning out, because I think there are some very high upside players with this group who did not go in the lottery. Keontae George with the Jazz, he's looked pretty good in Summer League so far. He's a good scorer, intriguing combo guard. Dariq Whitehead with the Nets, I think he's a talented player. He couldn't really stay healthy last year with Duke, which was the big issue with his season. But he's a knockdown shooter, and he was arguably the best player in the high school class last year. If not him, maybe Nick Smith Jr. from Arkansas was the best player in the class, another guy whose season got ravaged by injuries. Him and Amari Bailey are going to the Hornets, and I think both of those guys have pretty high ceilings for where they got drafted. I think we also could see some good role players on these playoff teams. Colby Jones, the guard out of Xavier with Sacramento, I think that should be a good pick in the second round. I like how Jordan Walsh fits with Boston. He was the glue guy with Arkansas last year. I think he can have a similar role in the NBA. Jaime Jaquez with the Heat is an interesting pick. I thought pick 18 was a little bit early for him, but again, I think the fit makes a lot of sense as a guy who should be able to contribute right away for a Miami Heat team who is obviously competing for a championship. And speaking of championship contenders, you could argue that the Bucks and the Nuggets are the 2 favorites right now. They both added some really good role players. The Bucks picked Andre Jackson from UConn, really good defensive player. And then the Nuggets added a bunch of good role players, headlined by guys like Julian Strother and Jalen Pickett. They're hoping these guys can sort of be their version of Christian Brown from last year as a first-round role player who's able to get minutes for a finals contender.
I'm going to keep this nice and short. I don't know NBA draft. I don't know any of it. What I do know is Victor is Victor. He's number one. Moving on. Number 2, Brandon Miller. It's Summer League. I'm not going to overreact, but I do think Scoot was the better player. I do think he would have been the better pick. If Victor Wembanyama wasn't a player, Scoot would have been number 1. So taking Brandon Miller over Scoot, a little questionable, but if Brandon Miller ends up being good, then oh well. I think the Blazers getting Scoot is phenomenal. If and when they trade Damian Lillard, Scoot is going to be that guy they can build around. Scoot, Shannon Sharp, the other player that I can't think of. That roster looks really good, and it looks like a really young core, and we'll see what they can get from a Dame trade, whether that goes to Miami or Brooklyn or wherever. I do think the Thompson twins look good. We'll see if the Pistons can build around Arsar Thompson. And then with the Rockets, I do have a bit of a questions, but that's more of what they do about a week after the draft happened. But we will get to that in a minute, because then that kind of diminishes what Amen Thompson is going to be able to do in his rookie year. But I'll get into how I feel about that in a little bit. The rest of the draft, I have no idea who his players are. Anthony Black, I know that guy's name. To the Magic, sure, that's good. I don't know a lot of this other stuff. But like I said, I'm going to keep it short. Rockets got Cam Whitmore. I know that name. That's good job. That's about all I got.
Let's now look at the NBA free agency, which kicked off a week later. I feel like on paper, this free agency class wasn't as good as what we've seen, and we had a lot of key players return to their teams. The Bucks in particular, they were able to get Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez back. One of the biggest spenders, of course, was the Houston Rockets, and you seem to not like what they did. I don't really like what they did either. I get the idea that they're trying to build a competitive team. They need to build a winning culture there, so I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't like paying Fred VanVleet $43 million a year. I don't like paying Dylan Brooks $20 million a year. I think those are both significant overpays that those teams are going to end up regretting. One of the moves I was a little bit surprised by was the Wizards giving Kyle Kuzma a big contract. I think he's worth the money. I think he's a good player, but I was a little bit surprised by that. I kind of thought that they would kind of go into tank mode over the next year or two, even though the next couple of drafts don't look really good at the top until 2026, which could end up being really good. We have had some interesting trades. I think the most fascinating one for me has to be the Kristaps Porzingis, Marcus Smart deal. Marcus Smart has been the heart and soul of the Celtics, and I'm a little bit surprised they were willing to give him up, but I think Kristaps Porzingis has been one of the more underrated players in the league over the last 3 to 4 years. He's a better basketball player than Marcus Smart, so I understand why they ended up doing it, because he's really, really good. And then the next set of storylines we're going to have is what happens with James Harden and Damian Lillard, who very well could be the two biggest stars to move this offseason. James Harden opted into his player option to find a sign and trade with the 76ers. It is becoming slightly more likely that he sticks around. I feel like that'd be a mistake for the Sixers. I don't see what you get out of running it back. I mean, they've only finished outside of the conference finals every year with the process core. So I feel like they should look to trade him. I think they can get some good role players around him. Maybe try to build around Embiid and Maxey. Maybe you look for a third star later down the road. As for Damian Lillard, I think it's more likely than James Harden that Dame does get traded. The whole situation is just kind of sad because Dame has been so loyal to the Blazers for so many years. And now he's just all about going to the Miami Heat. And the problem with that is the Heat don't have a great trade package. Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, and first-round picks and swaps over 5 years out. That's not enough for Damian Lillard. None of those players really move me. Tyler Hero being the main piece of the Damian Lillard trade would not excite me. So I do not blame the Blazers for a second for not really wanting to do that. And people are making the argument of you got to do your stars right. Damian Lillard's been so loyal to the organization, and I get that. Damian Lillard's been so important and so great to the Portland Trailblazers over the last 11 years, but it is a business, and they can get a better return from somewhere else. Look at Brooklyn, for instance. The Nets have some solid picks. They have more talented young players. Obviously, they wouldn't really trade a guy like Mikal Bridges or even a Cam Johnson, but they have other players. They have 2 first-round rookies with Noah Clowney and Dariq Whitehead. Cam Thomas could be an interesting piece, and there are other guys on that roster as well. Maybe none of them in specific are more tempting than Tyler Hero, but there's more players who the Blazers could get, and there's more draft assets, and there's certainly other teams who fit this billing as well. New Orleans has plenty of draft picks. They haven't really been linked to Damian Lillard, but I think it could make a little bit of sense. I think Damian Lillard does end up in Miami, but I hope for Portland's sake they're able to get a good return for him because they have a nice young core with Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and others. And I feel like if they get this Damian Lillard trade right, they can position themselves very well for the future.
Yeah, I'll start off with the Dame thing. I'm not sure where he's going to go. Obviously, he wants to go to Miami, but they just don't have a lot to give them. Looking at their finals roster last year, it was Jimmy and just a lot of role players. Like, there's not a lot of stars on that team. Obviously, Jimmy's not going anywhere, and Bam isn't going to go anywhere. Tyler Hero is the only big piece that they could trade, but it's Tyler Hero. Are you really going to trade Damian Lillard for Tyler Hero? No, you need a lot more than just that. The Brooklyn does have a lot more to give, but they don't have a lot of star power. None of it is better than Tyler Hero, but they have a lot more assets. They have players, they have a lot more picks, they have a lot more to give them. I'd be more enticed with a Brooklyn trade. I've seen if Miami is going to go get Dame, it has to be some 3-team deal that possibly would involve Tyler Hero going to Brooklyn. But if you're the Blazers, the only good piece that the Heat have to give you being Tyler Hero, and you're not even getting that, I don't see a point in doing that. If you're going to be able to keep Dame, if you want to keep Dame, I don't have an issue with that. I think there is some way you can be able to combine Dame, Scoot, Sharpe, and Simons. That 4 still sounds really good. It's a little small, but I do think it's a great 4. If you can trade Dame, though, and get a really good pieces for him, picks, players, all that, by all means, please go get it, because I think this Blazers roster with Scoot, Simons, and Sharpe can be really, actually really good. I think they could sneak into the play-in, maybe even be like a 6 seed year 1. But I think 2 years from now, if Scoot is who we think it is, if Sharpe can take all his talent and put it on the court exactly what we think he's going to be, they could be unstoppable for years. But I do want to go to the Rockets. Fred VanVleet getting paid, I don't have that big of an issue with them signing him. It's just that's a lot of money for Fred VanVleet. Like, come on. But I think my biggest issue with them signing Fred VanVleet is you have Fred and then you have Jalen Green. Where's Thompson going to play? Like, maybe you could slide him into the 3, but I don't think that's the role you want to give him. So is Amen Thompson going to be starting on the bench his rookie year? I don't know about that. That seems a little questionable. I would have liked to get him into that starting lineup a lot more. With injuries, sure, he'll get in, but at least right now, the starting lineup is Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, all the young guys, and Dillon Brooks, I guess. And Dillon Brooks is the biggest question mark that I have. If you're trying to build a winning culture for players to be able to come together as a team and win games, Dillon Brooks is the last guy I would want on that team. He is not the guy I would want to try and build a winning culture. Sure, the Grizzlies won, but it was their culture was the hood. They were ghetto. That was the culture of the Memphis Grizzlies, and I don't think that's what the Rockets want. I think they want Brooks just for his defense. I think that's what they want him for, and I don't blame them. That's fine, but I don't think Brooks was the way to go. I know it's not that big of a free agency here. Kyrie was the biggest guy on the board, and he's re-signed with Mavs. So the biggest guy was Fred VanVleet. You get him, but I don't think getting a guy like Dillon Brooks is going to be good for them, just culture-wise. On the court, maybe he'll be better. Maybe the defense is going to be what you need, but I don't think getting Dillon Brooks is a good get for them. And a lot of the other big-name guys, it's just a lot of role players, more or less. Jeremy Grant going back to the Blazers, that's a lot of money. If you were trying to keep Dame, giving Jeremiah Grant that much money, and that's it, they didn't really do a lot to keep him. The other thing that we didn't really mention is a lot of the 2020 class getting their bags. LaMelo Ball got a bag, Tyrese Halliburton, and Anthony Edwards. All of them got their big max contracts. They are on the books for the next 5-6 years. I think all of them deserve it. LaMelo, I'm less certain of, because I'm not that big of a LaMelo guy, but I do think he'll be able to take the next step up this year. Tyrese Halliburton is only going to get better from here, and Anthony Edwards looks like a bona fide superstar. So I think all three of them deserved the contracts that they get. We'll see how they perform now that they have that deal. And James Harden, I don't know where he's going to go. Maybe he goes somewhere. Maybe he stays. I kind of want to just reset everything, make a new process, but that's not what's going to happen. I know it's not. But I think with the new coach, maybe the Harden Embiid Maxey trio could do something. But if you can get a good package for James Harden, by all means, please go do it.
All right, so with that, we will head to our fun and game segment, and I'm excited to show everybody what we have in store here. So for our fun and game segment, we will be doing Immaculate grids for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. For those of you who have been living under a rock and don't know what the Immaculate grids are, they've taken the baseball world by storm. It's a 3x3 grid where there might be two teams or a team and a stat or something, and you have to guess a player that fits the category. So we'll each be doing one for the NFL, NBA, and MLB, and we will start with the NFL, and we'll have Nick and Nader go first. So here's his grid.
Okay, so I could try and find harder ones and be cool, but I am going to start easy. I'm going to throw Aaron Rodgers on there. Aaron Rodgers, easy.
Okay, one for one.
Jets, Dolphins. Feel like there's someone that I'm... Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, that's the name that was in my head. I'm sure there's other good ones.
Super Bowl MVP. Who did it for the Jets? Was it Joe Namath?
I'm gonna have to double check, but I'm gonna assume it's Joe Namath, so you can move forward.
I would assume. Yeah, I would assume so. That's the only other guy I can think of.
Yes, it was.
Okay, good. If it wasn't him, I would not get that one.
Yeah.
I know the Seattle one. That was. Oh, I know his name because I almost did this exact thing for you. It was Malcolm something. What was his name? I know it. I'll get back to it. For Washington, there's the QB. I don't remember his name. Did John Riggins win one for them?
Let me see. I feel like the quarterback had to have won one, but I think John Riggins did too.
I think he might have.
He did, yes.
Boom. And then who was the Seattle one? I know it's Malcolm Smith.
Malcolm Smith. There you go.
There it is. I knew it was there. Okay. All right. So I got the rest of the Packers and the rest of the Dolphins. Packers, Washington. I'm not sure on that one. Packers, Seattle. That one feels obvious. They feel connected in some way, but I don't know how. Golden Tate was never a Packer.
Yuck, the idea of that makes me want to throw up.
No, it does. That does sound gross. I think there might have been some sort of receiver. Jimmy Graham was never a Packer. I don't think.
Was he? Hold on.
He might have actually.
Let me check
That feels like he was. He was a Saint. He was a Seahawk.
He was a Seahawk and he was a Packer. There you go.
Boom.
That's a good ball. I would not have gotten that.
I was right.
I don't really remember him in Green Bay, but
I don't remember that at all. Dolphins, Seattle. Where would that be? Gino wasn't in Miami. Where did he go between New York and the Seahawks? Oh, he was a Giant. But did he go anywhere else? I don't think he did. I think it's just those three. And who... Was Darius Geis a Dolphin at some point? He might have been.
I don't think so. I don't know if he was anywhere other than Washington. Yeah, only Washington.
Okay. I thought he might have signed somewhere. There's some running back. J.J. was never a commie. I'm getting stumped on this one. Because that's three. I'm blanking. Jason Taylor was never a Seahawk. Like I want to give more like commentary and whatnot, but I am just stumped on these last three right here.
I have hints for all three. I will say the ones in my head, like, you'll know them, but they're not, like, super obvious.
Right.
Unless there's somebody else I'm not
thinking. Give me a
thinking
hint for one of them.
For Packers in Washington, I'm trying to think of a good hint that's not, like, obvious. The player at his position group with one of those teams had the same last name as him.
So, as an example, if he's a receiver, him and another receiver had the same name.
Yes.
Okay. I gotta think of some basic names. Unless there's like an obvious one. Johnson maybe, but that's too obvious. I can't think of anyone.
You're on the right track. It's not Johnson, but you're on the right track.
I didn't think it was Johnson. There's one guy in my mind, but I don't think he was a Packer. I don't remember his name, but he was like a Colt for a while in like Manning's last few years, and then he went to Washington.
Yeah, no, I don't think this player ever
Pierre
played for
Garcon.
Colts.
That's his name. That's not him.
I'll check, but I'm 99% sure Pierre Garcon did not play in Green Bay.
I don't think he was either. But you just popped in my head.
No, he did not.
I forgot he was here. He was good for a bit.
He was good. I didn't even realize he was on the Colts.
He was drafted there, wasn't he?
That's what it says on Wikipedia. I only remember him with Washington and San Francisco, but apparently he was there for 4 years.
Yeah, he was drafted there in like the last like few years with Manning, and he was with Luck for a little bit. And
Yeah,
then left.
the more you know.
Is he more known as a Packer or Washington?
I would say probably Green Bay, because that's where he is now.
Oh, so he's currently there.
Yes.
Okay, it's not a receiver because all the Packers receivers are rookies, so it's none of them. It's running back. I don't think so. Who's their tight end? It's Mercedes Lewis, maybe?
No. Although he did play a lot of places. What if he played in Washington?
He might have.
That's not the guy I'm thinking of. No, only Jacksonville and Green Bay. Okay, I thought he played other places, but I guess not. He was in Jacksonville.
I definitely thought it was more. I'm just gonna hope it's not O-line because I'm not gonna get O-line.
It's not O-line.
Okay, appreciate it. Their corners. It's not Jair. It's not Eric Stokes. Russell Douglas wasn't in Washington. Their safeties. Adrian Amos left. He didn't go to the commies. Donald Savage isn't. Preston Smith.
Preston Smith. There you go.
I got there. Can I do John Riggins again? He was a Dolphin, wasn't he?
Let me check. There's another one in my head, but
or is it?
He was not a Dolphin.
Fullback? No, there's a different running back, fullback. That was both. Oh, what's his name? There's some Hall of Famer like running back, fullback guy. And I'm almost positive was on both of those teams. He might have been on like the 72 Dolphins. What is his name? Zonka. Larry Zonka?
I have no idea if he played in Washington. I remember him with the Dolphins. He did not play with Washington.
Dang it. I thought I was him for a second. There's some running back. Ricky Williams, maybe? I know he was a Dolphin.
Yes. Was he in Washington? He was not.
I don't think Reggie Bush was. Maybe I need to leave. You don't have a running back in your head, do you?
No, but I feel like there is a running back who works. Yeah, Reggie Bush never played in Washington.
It feels like there's some sort of running back that works, but I can't name one.
Yeah, I'm trying to Google running backs who played for these teams, see if I can find another one.
I was trying to, because I know there's on Baseball Reference, there's a thing where you can put in two teams, and you can just get any player that has played for both those teams. But there is not one for NBA or the NFL, and then they're just so mad, because it's really hard to find some of these teams. Can I get the hint for the Dolphin Washington?
My hint for you is that he is a defensive back.
Okay. Is he currently playing?
Is he on a roster? I don't know. He is on a roster. Not Washington or the Dolphins, but prior to this upcoming season, he has only played with Washington and the Dolphins.
Okay. Let me think. Was he on one of those two last year then?
Yes.
Okay. Thinking Dolphins, they had Xavier Howard, they had Byron Jones, none of those three. Eric Rowe, maybe?
Eric Rowe's not the one I'm thinking of. I don't think he played ever with Washington.
I don't think he did either. I think he was an Eagle for a bit, actually.
Yeah, he got drafted by the Eagles. He did not play with Washington.
And then he left, and now he's good. Who's their safeties? I don't think it's not him. He's the Steeler. I don't think it's any of their safeties. So then I want to go to Washington. It's not their young safety because he's too young. It's not Kendall Fuller because he was a Chief. Who the hell are their corners? Oh, no. William Jackson was a Bengal. I'm blanking. Is it corner or safety?
He plays a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Okay.
I would say he's probably a little bit more known as a safety, though.
Okay. That kind of sucks because I don't know. I don't know the commie safeties. Because I know Kendall Fuller plays a little bit of both. I know it's not him. They have their one safety that's really young, but he has only been on that team. I don't know who their other safety is, and it might be him. It also might be Landon Collins, but that's not the answer.
No, it's not Landon Collins. He never played on the Dolphins.
No, I know that much, but I don't know who their other safety is, which, if that's the answer, I'm really annoyed. And then looking at Dolphins, they have the Oregon guy. I don't remember his name,
Javon
but
Holland?
they have him. Yeah, it's not him.
I'll narrow down the hint. He played on Washington last year.
Okay. I don't know who their other safety is then, because they have the young guy, but I don't know who the other one is.
His initials are BM. Hee.
BM, Brandon Miller. I don't know. What team is he on now?
He signed with the Giants.
The Giants. That totally helps. Definitely.
I didn't even realize he was on the Giants until I Googled him 3 minutes ago, for what it's worth.
Yeah, the Cameron Curl was the other guy. That's the young guy I'm thinking of. I don't know who the other safety was. I'm blanking on who this other safety could be. He's on the Giants. They have McKinley and someone else. Deontay Banks, that's DB. No, you said BM?
BM.
BM, what the hell? Oh, it's Bobby McCain.
Yes.
I used to love Bobby McCain. I should have known that. And then what's the last one? Seattle, Miami? I have no idea.
Okay, my hint for you on the player I'm thinking of is he has something that can be said about no other player in the history of the NFL.
It's got to be something real stupid and funny.
Or more so, he doesn't have something that every other player in the history of the NFL does.
Jason Pierre-Paul, doesn't have fingers.
No, but you're on the right track.
Not the receiver that shot his foot, because he still has a foot.
Yeah, no, it's not Plaxico Burress.
That's it. Who would have shot themselves? Who lost an ear? Who lost something?
You were closer with JPP. This guy didn't shoot a body part off.
Oh, is it the Griffin, the linebacker? Was he in Miami?
Perhaps.
Okay, I don't remember his first name.
You got Griffin right. Shaquem Griffin.
Shaquem. There we go. I got there. Slowly but surely. I will say, for mine, one of these, I don't think I have an answer.
Oh, boy.
But I think there definitely is one.
Yeah, I didn't have answers off the top of my head for some of these. Ooh, Lions. Okay. Lions and Packers. Who did we just sign from Green Bay recently? Oh, TJ Langworks. I feel like there's another, more recent example.
There definitely is.
Who did we sign from Green Bay again? What's his face?
He's not on the Lions anymore. He's on the Saints.
Oh, Jamal Williams. Oh my
There
God.
you go. That was
Okay.
That was
And then Lions and Bucks. Brashad Perryman.
Mm-hmm.
And then
There was a few
60
other ones that
interceptions. That's got to be Night Train Lane.
Night Train Lane is there. Yep.
All right. Light work. Niners and Packers. Okay.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the Niners Packers one, I cannot think of.
There's
one
got to
for
be
the life
one
of
though,
me.
because these are good teams who always have good players.
Exactly. They feel so linked, especially after the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. And I feel like there's someone there, but I could not name one. I Google it, I get some guy I've never heard of.
Okay. Vernon Davis did not play with the Packers.
No, I think he was just Niners and commies.
Okay.
He was a Giant? What the hell? Oh, he was in Denver for half a year, apparently. The more you know.
Yeah, I'm stumped on this one so far. I'll go back to that one. Packers and Depoy. Who's ever won Depoy? Clay Matthews did not win a Defensive Player of the Year. No shot.
Clay Matthews did not know.
Okay, good. I didn't think so. I don't think anyone on Green Bay would have done it recently. What about Reggie White? I mean, he works. He played on the Packers and won a Depoy. I would think.
Reggie White did win a Depoy. The other one that would have worked, was Charles Woodson. He won one.
Oh, that makes sense. Depoy and Bucks. Did Derek Brooks ever win a Defensive Player of the Year?
Derek Brooks did win one.
Bang. Okay. And then Depoy, 60 interceptions. These are like old players who have got 60 interceptions. I know Paul Krause is the all-time leader in interceptions. Did he have one in Depoy?
No, he did not.
Okay. There's no one recent who would have 60 interceptions. Dion? Does Dion have 60?
No, he does not. No one threw to him.
That would make a lot of sense. The 60 interceptions is going to get me. Ronnie Lott did not have 60 interceptions for the Niners, did he?
Ronnie Lott does have 60
Oh,
interceptions.
wow. Jeez. Ronnie Lott was really good.
I will say there's a total of 11 players in history that have over 60.
Okay.
Dion has 53, for what it's worth.
Okay.
He was close.
What about Niners and Bucks? Who could that be? Is there like a somewhat obvious one there?
I think there is. Let me remember.
I bet like Jeff Garcia or someone totally random like that played on the Bucks.
Oh, no, there is an obvious one. I know my obvious one. I think Jeff Garcia actually works, though.
Does he? Did he ever play on the Bucks? I have no idea. I just know he played on a lot of teams, including
He
San
might have,
Francisco.
actually. I know he was an Eagle. I know that much. He was a Buck.
Okay, that works. What was the obvious one?
There's a Hall of Famer QB for the Niners that also was in Tampa.
Did either of those two guys ever play with the Bucks?
Steve Young did.
I did not realize they
traded
played
for
with the
him.
Bucks.
They traded for Steve Young from the Buccaneers, and then he became a Hall of Famer.
Oh, he was drafted by the Bucks? I had no idea he was drafted by the Bucks.
He started on the Buccaneers.
Okay, I did not know that. All right.
The more you know.
So I needed 3 more. Depoy and 60 interceptions. Who else is really good at grabbing picks? Who's like old? Night Train Lane would be my easy answer here, but I already used them.
I don't think he has a Depoy.
Oh, okay. Who else has 60 interceptions? Who was like a good old corner from the 60s or 70s that works? There aren't any like players from the last 20 years there, are there?
Last 20 years? Kind of. He retired about 20 years ago.
Okay. What about like Rod Woodson?
Rod Woodson, yep. He retired in 2003.
Perfect.
The other two that would have worked, Ed Reed is
Oh,
there.
Ed Reed. Okay.
And still Charles Woodson. He also would have worked.
Yikes. All right. So I need Niners, Packers.
I think that's it.
And, oh, Oh, yeah, that is all I need.
Yeah, that's it.
I wrote them all down. I must have missed one. Which one did I miss?
Derek Brooks.
That's the one I missed.
Reggie White. There you
go. Okay. So Niners and Packers.
I'm going to keep looking to see if I can find anyone that played on both these teams, because I cannot find one for the life of me. Because all I get is just Aaron Rodgers maybe going to get traded. Like, no, he already did.
Yeah, I could have said Aaron Rodgers if they decided to do that. Who would work for both of those teams? I don't think Greg Jennings ever played in San Francisco.
Every player name I'm going to check, because we got to make sure we get this.
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure he didn't. This is a tough one. Jeez, who would have played on both of these teams? Two good teams. I'm trying to think of like random quarterbacks who bounced around. Would Matt Flynn have ever played on the Niners? I doubt it.
Let's check. Any player you name, I am going to check. No, he did not. He was in Oakland and Seattle.
Okay, didn't think so. Who played for both of these teams? Crabtree did not play for Green Bay. That doesn't work.
No, I wish. We've been done with this one. Like, there's someone, because they feel so connected, especially after Rodgers, but I cannot think of a single one, and that just annoys me so much.
I don't know. There's probably like some random depth player who's bounced around recently, like Jeff Wilson or JaMychal Hasty. I doubt those work.
I think Jeff Wilson's only been
Niners
on
and Dolphins?
the two teams. Yeah, he's just been on the two teams. He's changed his number 4 separate times. It's kind of funny.
Huh, okay.
JaMychal Hasty.
What about James Starks? I doubt that works. But maybe he played for San Fran.
We're going to try it. No, he was only in Green Bay.
Okay, try James Jones, too.
Oh, he might have actually.
He played for a few teams, I think. I don't know if he played on San Fran.
Not the NBA guy. I want NFL. Oh, he was only in Oakland and Green Bay.
Okay, shucks. Got the general location right. I want to get this one, but I
want you to get it too.
I know, but I have genuinely no idea. I need like random players' names feeded to me on these two teams to try to figure out if they'd work.
I'm just going to look at the rosters and just keep going until I find an answer.
Okay, I have an idea. It might be cheating a little bit, but I can't think of anyone else. I'm going to look at like old rosters for these two teams.
Be my guest.
Okay.
At this point, I just want an answer.
Okay, I'm going to look at the Packers Super Bowl team from like 12 years ago. Tramon Williams, I think, played in San Francisco. I think. Please. I'm pretty sure he did.
No, he didn't.
I could have sworn he did.
He was in Cleveland, Arizona, and Baltimore.
Oh, my Lord.
I opened his reference. I see a red, but I'm like, that's not Niner red.
I could have sworn he played there. Jeez, I have not seen some of these names in a while on this Packers Super Bowl team. Yeah, I don't know who. Nick Collins, I don't think played in San Francisco. Cullen Jenkins, try him maybe. I know he played on a few teams. I know he was with the Eagles.
Colin Jenkins.
Cullen,
That's
with
an
the U.
author. Nope.
All right, I'm looking at the Niners team who lost the Super Bowl to the Ravens now.
That worked.
I don't think LaMichael James played in Green Bay. I sure hope not. Here, I'm on Wikipedia. I might as well check myself. He did not. Thank goodness. I would be sad.
No.
Ted Ginn was a few places.
I don't think he was a Packer.
I don't think Mike Iupati ever played on Green Bay. I had that name in my head earlier. No.
This is the whole segment. It's just us trying to find a guy that was on both the Niners and the Packers. I just tried to Sean
What
Gibson.
about Dante Hittner? No, he did not play on the Packers. Ricardo Lockett was on the Niners practice squad. Did not know that. They had Mario Manningham too. What the hell? I did not know that. What about Ahmad Brooks? Ahmad Brooks works!
Ahmad Brooks, we did it.
Yes! He played on the Packers for his final year. I didn't realize he was on the Packers. We may have cheated, but who cares?
I don't even care. We did it. That's all I needed.
Okay.
I figured if anyone would figure it out, I figured the two of us together would have figured something out.
Or Wikipedia.
Or Wikipedia. That works
Okay.
too.
The nightmare is over. Thank goodness. All right. Let's move over to we'll do the NBA next. We'll get this out of the way for you. Oh Lord.
The real nightmare begins now.
All right, there it is. I tried to make it decently easy, but also a little challenging.
Okay. Top 3 pick. Sixers, Ben Simmons.
Yes.
Celtics, Jaylen Brown was top 3.
Jaylen Brown was 3, same year as Ben Simmons.
Boom. And then DeAndre Ayton for Suns.
Yes. Perfect.
Now it gets hard. This is the hard part.
This is where it gets fun. I try to pick relevant teams who have had a lot of movers.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. Doesn't Ish Smith play for like 15,000 teams? Does he?
Yes, he did. I know he played for the Sixers. I don't know if he played for any of those other teams.
Darn.
I don't think he played for any of those other teams.
Out of all the teams, you picked all the ones that Ish Smith didn't play for.
He played for 2 of them, but they're on the same. Oh wait, no, he actually does work for one of these. Hold on.
Let's go.
Not gonna say which one though. You got to get it.
Oh, Sixers Warriors.
Yes, that's the one. And apparently played on the Suns too.
We take those. Okay. Warriors Celtics. Oh wait, Chris Paul. Duh.
No.
For Warriors Suns.
Oh, I thought you meant Celtics and Warriors. I was like, what the hell?
No, Warriors Suns.
Yes.
Was that my one? My brain went to Kristaps Porzingis, and I was like, wait a minute, no, the other one. Mavericks, Sixers. I'm not sure. Mavs, Celtics, Kyrie.
Kyrie.
Mavericks, Suns. All I think of is just Devin Booker and just Luka just fighting. That's all I can picture in my head. Shaq wasn't a Warrior, was he?
No. He'd work for Celtics and Suns, but they're not on the same row.
Yeah. Was Wilt ever a Celtic at all?
No, he was the name I had for the Sixers and the Warriors.
Oh, that's right. He was there, huh?
But not with the Celtics.
Okay, Mavs, Sixers. Not Embiid, not Harden, not Maxey. Where has what's his face? The guy everyone wants to trade.
PJ Tucker.
Well, him, but I meant the good player. The wing. What's his name?
Daniel House? DeAnthony Melton?
No, the good one. That's a starter. I can't think of his name for the life of me.
Tobias Harris. He did not
That's
play in
it.
Dallas. I don't think. I'll double check, but I'm very sure.
So I mentioned a few teams.
Yes, Magic, Bucks, Pistons. Anywhere else? The Clippers. Oh, yeah, that's like the obvious one.
So I need Sixers, Mavs. I need Mavs,
Warriors,
Suns,
and Mavs, Suns. Yeah.
and then Warriors, Celtics. I still need. I got 6 so far,
I feel like these are the tougher ones, though.
and that means I'm not gonna get them because I don't know any NBA at all.
All right, I'll try to. Oh wait, no, we already did Mavericks and Celtics. I was gonna say Grant Williams works.
Yeah, Mavs, Celtics. I need Mavs, Sixers, Mavs, Suns, and then Warriors, Celtics.
Ooh, I have one for the Sixers and Mavericks who's like pretty recent. Actually, I have quite a few.
Okay, but you want to give me a hint?
One of these players was part of the Tobias Harris trade for Mavericks and Sixers.
Okay. Here's the thing. I don't know the Tobias Harris trade.
All right, let me help you out a little bit then. This player is heavily associated with Tobias Harris for other reasons.
For all the wrong reasons?
No, for good reasons.
Oh, okay. Who is he linked with? Was it Boban?
Boban.
Boom. Goldfish, baby. Okay. Warriors, Celtics.
I have some interesting ones for Mavs and Suns.
I'd love to hear
Hall of Famers. Actually, wow, there's some good players here. Holy smokes.
They feel linked, but all I can think of is just Devin Booker and just Luka just fighting. That's all I can think of right now.
One of these players has won an MVP within the last 30 years.
30 years. Was Steve Nash a Maverick?
Steve Nash was drafted by the Dallas Mavericks.
I did not know that. And then I just need Warriors, Celtics. I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. I have a couple names so far. I don't know if you would know who these guys are.
Maybe, probably not, but we can sure try.
How well do you know the pre-championship Golden State Warriors?
Not at all. I didn't even know who that center was, and he was on the championship, so I don't think I know him at all.
That's a good point.
Besides Will, that's about it. You can just give me the answer, and we'll just move on, because I don't think I'm going to get it.
Okay, that's fine. Do you know who David Lee is?
I don't think I do.
David Lee was good for a minute, but yeah. He works. I assume you don't know who Jonas Jerebko is, Piston legend.
I do not know.
Okay. All right, we could move on.
We'll move on from that atrocity.
Got 8. All right, here's mine. Pistons again. Pistons and Jazz. Alec Burks. Pistons and Celtics. Tayshaun Prince. Pistons and Mavs. Boban. That was easier than it should have been. Jazz and Cleveland will go. We'll be creative here. We'll say Colin Sexton. Actually, no, I changed my answer. Ochai Agbaji.
Boom.
Cavs and Celtics. Oh, Isaiah Thomas or Kyrie. We'll go IT.
Yep.
And then Cavs and Mavericks, Kyrie Irving. Bang.
Boom.
All right, 13-time All-Star. We'll go with the pedo, Karl Malone.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with the Truth, Paul Pierce, and we'll go with Dirk. I don't know if Paul Pierce would have 13.
Dirk does work. Paul Pierce does not.
Oh. I thought I was going to get that all super quick.
We're almost there.
Okay, we'll go.
I think 2 that work for this. For
Only
the
2?
Celtics.
All right. Does Bill
surprisingly-
Russell work for one of them?
You say what was his name?
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell does not work.
Okay. What about Larry Legend? Larry Bird.
It's not Larry Bird.
Jeez, Bob Cousy?
It's Bob Cousy is one
plumber?
of them. There you go.
Okay. Who's the other one? Like John Havlicek?
It was John Havlicek, yeah.
Okay, that was my next guess. Boom. Light work.
Out of all the big obvious ones, it's surprisingly not them. It's the next bunch. Larry Bird has 12, for what it's worth.
Okay. Ouch.
And so does Bill Russell.
Jeez.
God, the Celtics were good. Anyways, see, that one I could have done, besides the Pistons. I don't think I would have gotten any of the Pistons, but the rest I knew.
All right, now on to baseball.
Woo, baseball. Anyways, okay. More than 500 home runs. Did Cal Ripken hit 500, or was he at like 490 or something like that?
He played for so long, it's possible. I feel like this was a question on a recent Immaculate grid. Cal Ripken had 431.
Yeah, but I think he's their all-time leader.
If that's the case, then I'm gonna have to change that. I would have thought somebody would have had 500 with them. Here, I'm googling some.
Check these. Okay.
No, I did not. I'm sorry.
Just put Cal
Oh, I
Ripken
have
and
one for the
Cal
Orioles. Never mind, we're good.
There is someone that works?
Yes. That was the player I had in my head when I did this. I assumed it worked.
Okay. Who the hell? So, are they known for the Orioles, or is just some random guy?
This guy played on the Orioles for his first 11 years. He's known as an Oriole.
Okay. Oh, what's his name? Oh, my buddy always talks about this guy. I know who he is. He's outfielder, I think.
He's not known as an outfielder. Maybe he played there.
Not an outfielder, but he did a lot of things. What is his name? I know who this is. This is.
I have another one.
Cal Ripken was a leader, though. So my brain is just all. Is it Eddie Murray?
Eddie Murray, there you go. That was the one I had in my head. Frank Robinson would have also worked.
There we go. We got there. Okay. We'll go Mariners, Yankees. We will go not A-Rod. We'll play A-Rod for the 500 one, and then I'll say Pujols for the 500 one.
A-Rod for 500, Pujols for 500, yes and yes.
Boom. Okay. All right. Cardinals, D-backs. That's Goldie.
Yes.
Cardinals, Yankees. We'll go Jordan Montgomery.
Yes.
And then Mariners, Yankees. I can't say A-Rod again. So who else works for that?
There's another, pretty obvious one.
Yeah, but I'm blanking on who it is. That's the issue. They're not current players, are they?
The one in my head for the Yankees and Mariners is not. But I would hope you would know who this is. You do, obviously.
Oh, Ichiro was
Ichiro,
Yankee, right?
Yes.
There we go. I got there. Orioles, Yankees. Ugh. There's not an obvious one for that one, I don't think. I'm gonna go back to that one. Orioles, D-backs. Someone, I think, but I don't know who. Well, yeah, someone had to have. That one I'm not so sure of. These last three are stumping me. What? Mariners, D-backs.
That's the one I'm trying to figure out too. I haven't figured that one out yet. But okay. I assume there's a.
So I'm gonna try and go back to the Baltimore ones. Try and get those out of the way. I don't think Chris Davis.
Oh yeah, there are some really obvious ones for Mariners and D-backs. There's like 3 of them.
Oh, it's great.
Well, how did I not realize these ones? These are easy. Once you realize.
Nelson Cruz wasn't a Yankee, so he won't work.
No.
Does Wade Miley work for Arizona, Baltimore?
He might. He definitely played
for
Baltimore. His Wikipedia picture is Arizona, so yes.
Boom. Wade Miley, the GOAT. Baltimore, Yankees.
There are multiple ones I have in my head without Googling for that one.
Yeah, that one feels obvious. I just got to get there in my head. Didi Gregorius never played for the Orioles.
No.
He played a lot of places. Who would work for this? Oh, Zach Britton.
That's not the one I had in my head, but yes, I was thinking of Aaron Hicks, and also, I don't know if he ever played with the Yankees, but Jorge Mateo was with the Yankees for a little while.
I don't think he did. I think he was just a Padre, but I definitely forgot Aaron Hicks.
But yeah, Aaron Hicks would definitely work.
And then Diamondbacks and Seattle Mariners.
Yes. There are 3 good ones here.
See, I want to go back to that early 2000s rosters for both these teams, but I don't know what those rosters were.
One player who works here we have mentioned today.
Oh, well, I don't know who it is, but Randy.
Randy Johnson, yes. The player I was referring to was Ketel Marte, and Kyle Lewis also works.
Oh, I forgot Ketel Marte was a Mariner. I forgot all about that. He sure was. But at least I got that one done. Here's yours.
Okay. Mets and A's. We'll go with Chris Bassett.
Mm-hmm.
A's and Rangers, Marcus Semien. 40 and 40.
40-40. There are 4 career players that have ever had 40-40 season.
How many players?
4. One of them is an A.
Ricky Henderson did not hit 40 homers. There's no way.
No, it's not Ricky.
I don't know if I'm going to get
that is 10 Silver Sluggers for reference.
Okay. Nationals and Mets, Dom Smith.
Yep.
Nationals and Range. Oh, Christ. I have no idea.
That's the one that I was on.
I have no clue. Jeez. All right, 10 Silver Sluggers. Mets. Mike Piazza.
Yep.
Rangers.
For the Rangers one, it's not 10 with the Rangers. He just got 10 in general.
All right, the name in my head right now is Josh Hamilton. That does not work.
Josh Hamilton does not.
No, that definitely does not work.
He's not known as a Ranger, but he was on the Rangers.
He definitely does not have 10 Silver Sluggers, but I know Jacob deGrom probably has a couple, but he won't work. He doesn't have 10.
No.
10 Silver Slugger, 40-40. So basically, Jesus. We'll go with Willie Mays.
One of the 4 guys. No, not Willie Mays. There is one main guy that would work pretty easily here.
Jeez, this is a tough one. How main?
I think all 4 of these players are or should or could be all Hall of Famers. The Nationals one is probably the harder one. The A's one, you know who he is. I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame, but that's for separate reasons. And the 40-40 10 Silver Slugger probably.
Barry Bonds was kind of fast.
Barry Bonds does have a 40-40 season. I think he did it twice.
Sheesh. Yeah, that guy's pretty good. Okay, so I'm at what, 5?
I think you need Texas Nationals.
Yes.
You need
National
Rangers,
or Texas
10 Silver Sluggers,
and then 40-40 for those 2. Okay.
Yep.
A-Rod.
A-Rod for Rangers. Yep.
Yes.
There you go.
That makes sense.
I think those are the only 3 players to have 10 plus Silver Sluggers: Piazza, A-Rod, and Bonds. Bonds is
really? Huh.
It wouldn't pull up a whole list of careers.
Well, good for me.
Every time I found something, it just said Piazza had 10, it said A-Rod had 10, and then Bonds had 12.
Okay. So the Nationals 40-40 season, I assume this player would have played on the Expos?
I think he actually was on the Nationals.
Oh. Bryce
This
Harper did not have
is-
40 stolen bases. No shot.
It's not Bryce, no. It's
Okay.
not that recent.
Okay, it's not Trey Turner. It's not Juan Soto.
No.
Who else has been good on the Nationals? Over
He's not
20
known
years.
for the Nationals, but he was on it for a good bit.
Okay. It's not Jason Worth. No, no way.
No.
Okay, good. I didn't think so. And the A's. You said with the A's, he's not in the Hall of Fame for other reasons.
I'm assuming he's not in the Hall of Fame. Some Pete Rose type shit.
Okay. I don't think Pete Rose works for either of those.
He was a Red.
Who was a really good A's position player other than Ricky Henderson? I can think of like they're good pitchers.
He was only good really with the A's, and then he kind of left, and he didn't really do that
Reggie
much else,
Jackson. Would he work?
but Who?
Reggie Jackson?
Is not Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson was good on the Yankees. What am I thinking? What if it's like one of those like Black Sox guys from like the 1910s?
No, it's not that far back. This guy played in the 80s, 90s.
80s and 90s with the A's. And it's not
Yeah.
Ricky Henderson.
It's not Ricky Henderson. It's a white guy.
A white guy. Mark McGuire.
It's not Mark McGuire.
Oh. Yeah, I guess he didn't have 40 stolen bases.
Okay, I lied. He's not white.
Oh.
My fault.
Okay, I thought I got it.
He looked white.
I
He
could
looked
see
white.
Sammy Sosa having 40 stolen bases, but I don't think he played on either of those teams, did he?
No, he also doesn't have 40-40.
Oh, okay. I guess he doesn't have 40 stolen bases.
He's from Cuba.
This player's from Cuba? Okay.
He's from Cuba, the A's.
Okay, the only name I can think of is Fidel Castro.
That's
That
good.
obviously does not work because he did not play baseball.
Yeah, the Nationals one is Dominican.
Okay, Cuba and Dominican. The name I have in my head with the Nationals would be Vlad Guerrero. He played with the Expos though, and I don't know if he had 40 stolen bases. I doubt it.
So the year he had the 40-40 season was like right after they moved to Washington. So this is like early mid 2000s.
Okay, and it's not Vlad Guerrero.
I'm looking at his reference page. He was on the Washington for 1 year,
And he had a
Apparently.
40-40 season?
and it was his career season. This is his best season. And he was on the Nationals for 1 year.
Where did he go after the Nationals?
He went to the Cubs for a while.
Alfonso Soriano?
There it is.
Wow, okay.
Alfonso Soriano.
Okay. I did not realize he played on the Nationals.
For a single year in 2006.
And he had a 40-40 season, okay.
And he had a 40-40 season.
Good for him. I would not have expected that. All right, so now I just need Nationals, Rangers, and an A's 40-40. He's not in the Hall of Fame for reasons. It's not Mark McGuire. It's not Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson's Hall of Famer anyway. I need a hint.
Let me think. He was good buds with A-Rod. I think he was the guy that gave him the roids to begin with.
Jose
He has
Canseco?
an MVP in '88.
Is it Jose
He's
Canseco?
got- It is Jose Canseco.
Okay. The A-Rod thing confused me, but the steroids helped me. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then it's just Rangers Nationals, right?
Yes. Oh, dear.
So
Ooh.
for that one, there is a current player. He's not on either team.
He's not on either team?
He's not on either team right now, but there is a current player who's DH outfielder type guy. And then there is a pitcher who we all love.
We all love.
We all love. Everyone does.
Oh, I didn't. Did he play on the Nationals? Did Bartolo play on the Nationals?
Bartolo Colon did play on the Nationals.
Okay, who's the current player?
I think it was Expos, but
Oh, yeah, he did play on the Expos.
yeah, he was in the Expos. The current player that I found was Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz was the Nationals
Oh,
for a
yeah.
year.
He was on the Nationals, and with the Rangers, he was really good. Oh,
Yeah, he was.
okay.
I think he's mainly known for the Rangers, and then
Yeah, I
was on the
definitely
Nationals
remember him
for
on
half a
Rangers.
year, and I think he went to the Padres after that.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I don't know if I would have gotten Nelson Cruz with the Nationals, but I remember that now.
Yeah, I think Bartolo Colon was the big one for that one that we both just kind of forgot about.
Okay, yeah. The 40-40 one was a good one. That was tough.
I was going to do 30-30. I look at 45, like, oh, there's guys I can work with here. These are known players.
That was tough, though. That was a good one. Almost as tough as Packers and Niners. That was brutal.
Yeah, I thought about changing it, but I was like, you know what? One of us is going to figure something out. One of us is going to find something.
Okay, so that'll wrap up the episode. I hope everybody enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Nick and Nader, if you have any words before we sign off.
I'm going to go play in the NFL and play on the Packers and the Niners so that we can finally figure out this grid and get an actual answer.
I guess he wants me to root against him now that he'll be a Packer. So, yeah, next episode will be up pretty soon after this. And, yeah, peace out.